And it makes me think that putting college students in a situation where they have to hide things from authority in order to continue to have fun might not be the best idea.
Now to the anguished parents tonight and the very disturbing surveillance here amid horrific allegations of fraternity hazing at the University of Missouri. A student allegedly force-fed alcohol, now paralyzed, blind, and unable to speak. Tonight here, his family demanding criminal charges.
The University of Southern California has temporarily suspended a fraternity over allegations that women were drugged and sexually assaulted at their house. USC public safety logs show at least 6 incidents of drugging were reported at in the last month.
Hazing is barely scratching the surface when it comes to fraternities, and in this video, I'll go over everything good and bad about them. And look into the culture of fraternities and history of SA and hazing within them, as well as the system that is designed to cover up anything that could put a halt to the social calendar. I didn't know how to start this video, but then I came across this post on r/frat. And it's honestly pretty disgusting, so I'm gonna let a text bot read it.
You pay for your friends. No, I pay to live in a frat house mansion with a bunch of degenerate I may choose to become close with if I decide so. We cut up and get up whenever we want with an emphasis on working hard before playing hard. Drugs are readily accessible and a new group of personal servants comes around every semester. Our membership also comes free unlimited access to hot spoiled sorority b****s waiting to get down until they meet their lover before graduating. Our personal chef is also a degenerate but he cooks better than your mom and beats whatever sorry they have working in your dorm hall. We also throw ragers in our frat house mansion on a regular basis where we bring hundreds of to us, because we're in a frat and you're not. And lastly, once you get your shit together, there's loads of alumni you can slob off to get a job pronto.
This is the same Reddit that I posted asking for interviews from current members or alumni of fraternity, and while not all of them were nice, some of them were willing to talk to me.
There's been people who've leaked our rituals online before, and because when I was pledging, I searched for it extensively.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, and it got taken off really quick. I don't know how they do that, but they do keep it pretty secretive. I don't know how, but it's pretty wild.
Many groups such as gangs, military branches, and fraternities have different ways and traditions of initiating their members. For fraternities, this often includes pledging, and pledging or hazing deaths continue to make the news every year. It's really important to note that just like everything we talk about in this video, fraternities and hazing are not the same everywhere.
It definitely wasn't fun, but the one thing I really liked about it is that our process was dry, meaning that we actually weren't allowed to have any alcohol or weed or nicotine or anything like that. And I thought that was a really good way to go about the process. I think it's smart.
One of the people that I interviewed was a pledge educator for his chapter, and if you don't know what that is, that basically means that he's in charge of pledging or rushing the new members. For some fraternities, this means that he's in charge of hazing them, and his perspective was a lot different than those that you see in the media. Here's a couple clips to give you an idea of what he considers to be good hazing.
You know, obviously the specifics of what goes into being a pledge dad, you know, there's a lot of things obviously, you know, are behind, you know, sealed lips, getting these guys out of their shell, making them more confident in themselves, in their decision making, in their ability to lead. Bad hazing is something that simply is a means to tear them down, tear down your pledges, and you know, make them, you know, not feel good about themselves, and then they'll project that negativity on the future pledges. Right. The worst lesson to learn is waking up the next morning to your brother in a body bag. Everything in life is a lesson. So you should give the people who are coming up beneath you good lessons.
This is also a good time to remind you that all of the statistics from the past 2 or 3 years involving anything to do with fraternities in a negative light, the idea that over the past 3 years this has dramatically decreased is a complete lie. If you don't remember, we were in a pandemic for over a year, and basically every fraternity had to shut down their social calendar, even though we know that many tried to continue the social calendar in secrecy. And also, interestingly enough, if you look at the list of hazing deaths occurring within the United States, you'll notice a 1-year gap occurring only between the years of 2019 and 2021, aka the year 2020. Social calendar was shut down, forcing them to rush members online. Between 2000 and 2021, there is one other year without a hazing death occurring in the United States. And it was the year that a massive amount of fraternities and sororities were being shut down because of all the things that I'm going to talk about in this video. But why do people want to join? Well, I asked the people I interviewed, and basically their answers can be boiled down to 2 things: relationships or power.
And I was like, damn, I want to do something. I want to be a part of something.
We had a lot in common, and they ended up rushing me, and that's how I joined.
All of a sudden, you see girls turning their head and looking at you certain ways. It's definitely a status symbol.
I wanted to join a fraternity is just kind of why everyone else wants to, probably kind of to party, to drink, to make friends.
While around 1 in 5 women are assaulted by the time they graduate college, 1 in 3 Greek women will have been assaulted. On the other side of the coin, members in fraternity have been found to be an average of 3 times more likely to commit SA. The study is a few years old, but seeing as the number of victims across certain campuses has remained almost the same, it's safe to say that the lowest would be 2 times. Let's give them 2 times more likely to commit SA for the benefit of the doubt, because it still sounds pretty shit. But why does that happen? Typically, sororities aren't even allowed to throw their own parties, being restricted either by their school or by nationals. Because of this, fraternities control the parties, and the drugs, and the...
Pause.
Speaking of drugs, fraternities in college are almost guaranteed to be the drug hotspot of the school.
Hundreds of kilos of cocaine, LSD, Molly or MDMA, mushrooms, steroids.
At 3 of North Carolina's largest universities. But beyond the sheer size of the operation, prosecutors say it was shockingly brazen. The drugs openly for sale inside fraternity houses, as well as on campus and in town.
An important lesson is managing yourself and protecting yourself against, substance abuse. We see it happen. There was, at one point, someone in a house met a couple of years ago before I rushed, had died on our campus, and I think that sent that sent a message to pretty much those smart chapters in our IFC. Okay, we need to change how we approach things like this.
Unfreeze.
Well, why does that happen? Well, the fraternities control the parties, and the alcohol, and the drugs, and the ratio of males to females. Besides the position of power that they're put in by having not only control of the location, but also the amount of manpower there, this allows things such as drugging or getting girls drunk to become a whole lot easier. If sororities were allowed to throw parties and therefore take control of their own alcohol and or drugs, I would almost guarantee that nationwide we would see a statistical decrease in the amount of SA on college campuses. But that obviously wouldn't happen, because like I said, power is key. The sad truth is, because there's normally very little repercussions, nothing is really changing. Apart from the fact that members of fraternities are more likely to have a family that is capable of dealing with any charges or capable of making them go away, girls in sororities are also a lot less likely to speak out due to the pressure of ruining the social calendar. If the person that committed the assault was in a fraternity, and statistics say most likely he was, if you were to speak out, their fraternity would have their social calendar shut down. And since those are the parties that your sorority has been attending, all of your friends would also be upset with you. So you talk to someone within your sorority instead of going to the police or the university. They talk to someone else in the sorority who talks to someone else else in the sorority, who then talks to someone else in the fraternity, who then talks to the person that did it. Then the fraternity handles it. Internal structures within the fraternity get to decide what happens. Whether he gets punished, gets social probation, or gets reported to the university at all. Sometimes they even get to decide for something as serious as SA, with the worst thing that normally can happen being removal from the fraternity.
So when someone fucks up, you go to them, or we go to you first and say, hey, we need to meet with you. We don't usually say what it's about. Then we bring it up, and usually right then we'll already have a punishment kind of planned out in our heads, whether it's social probation or, whether their position gets revoked or if it's a fine, whatever. So we usually tell them what happened, present the facts, give them a chance to say like their side of the story, and then give them the punishment.
And while members of the fraternity may want to stick up for the girl, they can't. Because if they did, they would lose their social calendar, and their relationships, and their parties, and the fun that they want to have in college. They may want the girl to speak out, but they have to pressure her not to. Because if she was to speak out and it was to move to another level of authority, the fraternity's social calendar would be ruined, and therefore all of the people within the council would have their parties, relationships, and fun taken away. Do you see the conflict of interest yet?
Well, I think the biggest issues facing Greek life is, I think, sexual assault. At least for my fraternity, like there has been an instance of that, and we took action like among ourselves to get rid of that person. Like it wasn't like a thing where the school knew about it. It was more of like we heard from a friend that this person did that, and we kicked that person out and got rid of their letters.
And that's the problem. Defending the social calendar has become the priority for most houses. Just looking at physical assaults by fraternity members, almost always the ones that actually make it to court are an assault by a fraternity member on a non-fraternity member. Even though to anyone in college, you know that that's far less likely to happen. These internal assaults go unreported for the same reason that SA does. If they were to report it, the university would have to enact some form of discipline. We can assume that so many more things like this happen way more often than the statistics tell, just because of the way that the system is set up. And it makes me think that putting college students in a situation where they have to hide things from authority in order to continue to have fun might not be the best idea. But speaking out comes with a lot more than just the social calendar. These societies have money that runs deep, and where the money runs, the power is. And the cost of an expensive court case just to protect something that could damage the image of fraternities and sororities is just a drop in a bucket to them. Without this money, the organization would lose its power, and that's the reason why they want to keep the ideal of a fraternity as strong as they can. Without the belief that fraternity brings power and influence, people won't join, and therefore they won't have money to influence the things the way they do. The same influence that allowed them to not only use loopholes to escape justice, but also to escape the second glance from the social eye.
It's a whole lot of money in this motherfucker.
Cornell's website states that while only 2% of America's population is involved in fraternities, 80% of Fortune 500 executives, 76% of U.S. senators and congressmen, and 85% of Supreme Court justices, and all but 2 presidents since 1825 have been fraternity members. Can you guess who the 2 presidents were? Let me tell you, one of them was the one that isn't white, and the other one? Okay, I would have guessed that he was in a fraternity. It does make sense that fraternity members are wealthier though, given that their family typically tends to be wealthier to begin with. But the idea of fraternity alumni having this connection of powerful people, similar to the Illuminati, is simply not true. Many of these alumni have little or no contact with current members, but their massive donations to the fraternity speak far louder than anything else will. A Greek life member is 4 times more likely to donate to their college after graduation. Again, this is often due to the fact that they came from wealthy families to begin with, but that's besides the point. And because they need to find a tax break, their alma mater is knocking at the door. And that's why colleges will not crack down on fraternities, as the money coming in the door seems to far outweigh the number of deaths and assaults that occur within fraternities every year, and continues to be swept under the rug by universities. And if you don't believe me, ask your college about Greek life demographic transparency. There's been a call for this in the recent years, and of course almost no colleges have obliged, but the ones that did tell a sure sign. If they aren't willing to provide the demographics, there's a good chance that they are well aware of race and wealth inequality that exists within the Greek life on their campus. However, they are too busy dealing with a handful of money shoved up their ass.
Alpha step, Omega step, Kappa step, Sigma step, gangsters walk, pimps gon' talk.
I asked everyone who I interviewed what they gained from joining a fraternity apart from just the vast alumni network, and this is what they had to say.
It helped me come out of my shell, become a little bit more confident in myself. I've gotten a lot of leadership skills, a lot of management skills, time management, communicating with other guys. The big XP bar that every person has on their head, boom, you got a bonus. You did a side quest, joined a frat. You now have guys that you'll know for the rest of your life.
I mean, although my chapter's not super diverse, like race-wise, I wish it was. I have nothing against that. It's very diverse with like personalities, right? I mean, it's predominantly white. Nothing wrong with that. We do have a lot of Asian kids too, a couple Mexican kids as well. But it really, I mean, I went to a Catholic school in high school. My friend group we all had similar interests. We were all the same people. And I wouldn't say I was closed-minded, but if I met someone new, I definitely in my head, I was like, all right, well, this isn't the type of person I'd be friends with, right? I just think it really opened my mind to, that everyone's their own person. And it's helped me grow as a person so much to see the world from other people's perspectives. And now I have 60 best friends that I never would have even considered being friends with in high school, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Other than that, obviously the social aspect's awesome. It sounds cliche to say this, but you're not going to be able to have an experience like this if you're not in Greek life in college, especially at my school.
I've gained lifelong friends that have always been there for me, and I've gained a social life in college. I feel like the benefit of joining fraternity is that there's always something to do and people to meet. If you want to be social, and you're not the most social person, I think it's really good for you.
So needless to say, lots of good things can come from fraternities. And talking to the people I talked to proved my point that not everyone involved in a fraternity is a bad person, although I can't really know, I only met them on an interview. But even with the people that I interviewed that all had good experiences, almost every one of them talked about drug abuse, SA, or other things that have been consistent throughout the history of fraternities. And just like other groups that have a history of consistent bad things happening, there is a reason that it hasn't been stopped.
More light needs to be brought to sexual assault, drugging, all that kind of stuff. Solution: shitty people just do shitty things. You just have to be in a fraternity where everyone has the same mindset of we don't allow that here. And I think I like to think that most people are like that. Most fraternities are like that, but I know they aren't. So I think it's a similar situation to people complaining about police. One bad apple could ruin the whole fraternity. And obviously we take action on that kind of stuff, and we make sure that one person doesn't ruin it for everyone else. And we're completely against that, and we internally deal with the situation, and we ends up with the person getting kicked out.
This isn't the first time we have heard this argument, and just like whatever group you're thinking of right now, there's a reason that it has continued to happen. There's a structural and historical reason for the unending pile of SA allegations, assault allegations, and hazing deaths that have occurred within the United States, along with the infinite number of other things that are most likely being kept hidden from the public. I want to make it clear again that being in a fraternity does not make you a bad person, just like being in a gang or being a cop doesn't make you a bad person. However, with the obvious draw of fraternities being social power, the bad apples may not be a result of what is happening within the fraternity, but the statistics say that the fruit is a lot more likely to be rotten there, if you get what I'm saying. And it's been this way for decades. Power has the quality of attracting bad people, and usually the people with the best intentions have no desire of attaining it. This is the same for fraternities. Fraternities don't cause these bad things to happen, but they certainly are a stomping ground for those types of people. And because of the social calendar being at threat, if any of those people's actions were to come out, most fraternity members get one get out of jail free card by being simply kicked out of the fraternity. But I actually think that's one of the better alternatives for the current rules set by Greek life, with the councils being disconnected from the houses and minute things becoming major punishments. Frats have no choice but to lie about certain things.
I hate to say it, but I think be a little bit more lax with the rules, because if you're super strict on everything that we do, it's only going to make us want to sneak around and get in trouble more, right? I mean, when we have our weekly meetings with nationals, we're lying out of our ass. We're not even allowed to have parties and serve alcohol to people under 21, which I get, it's the law. But at the same time, it's just holy shit, these rules are fucking insane. Nationals always sucks for everyone.
Genuinely, it is impossible for them to ensure that everyone is above 21. But besides that, shouldn't there be more prevalent issues that the council is attending to? There remains no way to target an individual committing the action and separating it from the actual Greek house due to the current system. And while this seems like something that really needs to be fixed urgently in order to better protect girls on campus, I don't think that the National Council of Rich Fuckers that decides things about Greek life really cares. Because what does it all come back to? The money, baby. And whether or not a brother commits sexual assault, puts another student in a coma, or sells coke on campus, they still pay their dues. Alright, that was a really sad ending, so I'm back. I want to say that I don't hate Greek life. I don't hate anyone that's involved in Greek life. I definitely see the draw, but I wanted to talk more about the reason that things continue to happen and why nothing's being done about it. And so that's all I have to say. Thank you so much for watching. If you're still watching, if this was interesting to you, please subscribe, drop a like on the video down below. This video took so long to get out because of all the interviews and editing and everything like that, but thank you for watching.